Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into the YouTube channel. Man, just when I thought spring was going to get here, it got cold again, and so that's why I'm all bundled up. I'm practicing for another event, but I wanted to talk about something that I feel like a lot of people are faced with right now, and that is high or rising water and some of the conditions that go with that, but also just a couple of tips on how to have a more productive day on the water when you have high rising water or those types of conditions, off-colored water, dirty water, low visibility, those types of things. Personally, I like high or rising water because that's when I can break out a lot of what I like to call the fun baits, spinner baits and jigs. Flipping and pitching, short cast, because I don't have to be far away from the fish. I can get real close to them because their visibility is diminished. But that also makes it challenging for them to find your baits. So there's some different things that I want to talk about that'll help you get the fish to notice your bait. Probably one of the better baits for high water, and specifically if there's a lot of targets in the water like brush or wood or any type of what would normally be terrestrial type vegetation that's now been flooded, man, you just hardly can't beat a jig. A jig fished in and around those types of targets is just going to be a tremendous way to get bit. Now, black and blue is what I'm partial to, mainly because the water's more off colored. If you can see, I've got kind of like coffee with cream colored water here, and there's a lot of floating debris, little sticks, leaves, everything. And so there's a lot of things in the water right now, and I always want something that's dark to produce a dark silhouette where the fish can really hone in and find the bait. And I want a larger type trailer, like a Yamamoto flapping hog or a traditional jig chunk. And this is the time when you want to break out your rattles. So if you've got jig rattles, or you have a jig like the Buckeye mop jig has rattles on it, leave those rattles on there. Rattles are going to help the fish find your bait. So more of a bold color like your black and blue, or if you go with brown and orange, or brown and chartreuse, or black and chartreuse, black and purple, those types of things. Just a nice bold presence. Fish can find your bait in this more off-colored water. Seems a little bit contradictory to what you would think, but the darker colors really work well in the off-colored water. And the other bait that you've got to throw in high rising water, or water that is kind of in flood stage or over full pool, is you got to throw a spinner bait. And it's time to throw your chartreuse, your bright chartreuse colored ones like this one here. Chartreuse and white, maybe white, depending upon the level of turbidity or the level of stain that you have in the water. But I'm going to go with a chartreuse spinnerbait, 3/8 or half. And this goes for the jig too. A lot of the times what you'll see in fish when the water comes up, maybe not initially, it depends on what fishery you're on. Some of them, they're going to pull right up with the water level, and then some are going to stay back. But if you do have fish that are moving up into that newly flooded cover, I like a lighter weight, like a 3/8 or a half ounce, maybe at the most. And that way you can drop that bait right in there with the minimal amount of ripple. Again, you don't want that whole hamburger from the sky kind of scenario. You want it to just lay right in there, and all of a sudden there's something to eat right in front of their face. It kind of startles them, kind of draws a reaction strike. You're not startled in a bad way, but it makes them, come to life, and they recognize it's an opportunity, and they tend to strike, or that's what we're hoping for. So baits with rattles in them, like if I'm going to throw a square bill on a rock type bank, then I want ones with rattle or a thump in them. Rattle traps will be good as well. Your brighter colors again, your bright reds, your oranges, your chartreuse, those types of things. And a couple of things to key on is, I feel like when those fish are faced with that high of rising water and very little visibility or minimized visibility because of the stain from all the runoff in the lake, a lot of times those fish are going to be really shallow. Again, that's why that nice soft presentation is key, lighter weight, those types of things, a roll cast to just lay it in there, or a pitch to get it right up there. But also those fish are going to get around those hard targets like the wood and the rock. Those hard targets kind of become a landmark for them. So they can, obviously it's a place where they can set up an ambush, but also I kind of liken it to stumbling around at night when you're walking to the bathroom. You have a sense of where you're at, but when you touch the wall, you're like, okay, now I know where I'm at. And I feel like the rock or the wood or the brush or something like that, targets, it seems like they really get near the targets even more than traditionally. So I think it's key to find those targets, rock, wood, brush, anything like that, and present those baits nice and easy and gentle into the water. Another thing that you're going to want to do if you're faced with really high rising water, you want to find an area where you can get to the bank. And what I mean by that is sometimes there's going to be so much fluctuation or elevation increase in the water level, and you'll just have just a thick tree or brush line, and you know the bank's back there, but you can't present a lure there. A lot of times when those fish move up with the water level, they're going to go all the way to the bank, and when you have a brush line that sticks way out in the lake, you can't get to those fish. So getting to a place like where I'm at right now, where I can actually pitch to the bank, cast to the bank, present a lure near the bank, that's always good, because the bank gives them a hard stop, gives you an idea, well, you know, as a reference point where the fish might be. So these are some tips to take into consideration when you're faced with high water. I know there was a tremendous amount of flooding as I left Mountain Home, Arkansas for that Bassmaster Open. Man, I hope people are recovering from that. That's a bad deal. Gosh, I know there was even a lot of flooding down in Texas where I'm from. Not necessarily where I live, but even further south. I know there's some places that were pretty hard hit. Hey, thanks for tuning into the YouTube channel and watching this video. If you got anything out of it, please give me a thumbs up, drop a comment down below, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do that. I notice there's a large portion of people watching the videos that aren't subscribers. And then also check out my merch. It's Team Niggemeyer Fishing, and I'll have a link in the description section. That's also where you'll find my website that can take you to more information about me, whether it's guide service or just who I am or what I'm about. Also, it'll have links to my social media, Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. Again, thank you for watching, and until next time.